How would you like to have a great retirement and be able to grill a great steak? By the end of this video, you will gain clarity for your personal retirement plan and be able to grill a great steak and have action items to secure your retirement.
To learn more about securing your retirement and all the different elements you need to know, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to be notified when we post a video every Monday. We have helped hundreds of our clients gain clarity and get on the path to a comfortable and happy retirement. Now it's your turn. Let's dive in.
Well, we welcome you to our Monday podcast where we try to bring on the most interesting people that we can find and people that can give us a lot of good information for our listeners. And so today we have a special guest, Dean Ogan. And Dean, if you know anything about us, has been a part of our what we do for our clients now for years. And he owns and operates a very large organization when it comes to catering events and things like that. He was just telling us about how much he has going on now that we're kind of coming out of COVID, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But thank you, first of all, thank you so much, Dean, for coming on and talking with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Good. So, hey, could you just tell our listeners a little bit about what it is that, Rocky Top is, what that means? And, and a lot of people are here in the Raleigh area. Some people may not be. So could you just kind of give us a little bit of background on you and kind of how you got to where you are today? And then we'll talk a little bit about what that means to our listeners.
Absolutely. Well, the Cliff Notes version is I own and operate Rocky Top Catering, which was founded in 1997. We're Raleigh based, obviously. Started out as a restaurant company. We owned over the course of the last 20 years, 12 unique different restaurant concepts. Over the last 6 or 7 years, we really decided that we were going to, for personal lifestyle reasons and for just consolidating and getting into a more focused business direction, work on catering and special events. So we sold off restaurants and closed some when leases ended. And now we do almost predominantly large scale catering events, everything from weddings, corporate deliveries. One of our largest clients is the University of North Carolina Athletics, where we handle everything from game day activities for football, basketball, and baseball to the training table for the football team, which is super cool. We feed the football team all their meals, and that's a collaboration between us and the nutrition team, that's been really fun.
Yeah. So thanks for that. Thanks for that little intro there, Dean, about who you are and how you got to where you are now. As some of our listeners have had the opportunity to kind of meet you virtually throughout the pandemic, we did a couple cooking classes, and you taught us how to make a very, very tasty paella, taught us how to make some gnocchi. And over the past few years, you've catered some awesome events for us as well. So we know Rocky Top is very good at what they do, very good at the service they provide and the quality of food as well. So that's a good intro on what Rocky Top is. But today, the whole topic of what we want to cover, because this podcast, we kind of came up with the idea of, well, we don't just want to be the financial advisor that's only talking finances. We want to talk about different things. And so this is more of a lifestyle podcast that we're going into. And a lot of our listeners love cooking. We've gotten so much good feedback on some of the events that we've done in the past about, making things here and there. And so today we just want to really pick your brain when it comes to cooking. And my first question is, with the weather warming up, with COVID restrictions backing down, with people getting vaccinated, everyone is really itching to get back out there, whether it's to restaurants or to having family and friends over. And the first thing that comes to mind is, well, when it's warm, you want to be outside, you want to be throwing a great barbecue. And so I'd like to open up with asking you, well, what are some of your most, key grilling tips when it comes to grilling? I love grilling. I think I'm pretty good at it, but I know there's so much more than I can learn. So what are some of the tips that you've got for us today about grilling?
Well, there are a few things that I would start with. First and foremost, a lot of people approach grilling the same way, regardless of what they're cooking. And to me, if you have so many different approaches you're going to take, whether you're cooking a hamburger, whether you're cooking chicken wings, grilling steaks, everything requires a different approach. And the approaches really matter based on the amount of fat that you're dealing with and in the proteins that you may be grilling. Because when you talk about grilling, you're really talking about meats. You're talking about fish. I mean, you can throw some vegetables and stuff on, which I love, but how you deal with different meats is really going to change the result. So, the first thing for lean proteins, and I would consider lean protein something like a fillet of beef or chicken breasts. If you're going chicken breasts or even ribs, once you've put ribs onto a grill, most of the fat's usually off of them. The hotter the heat, the better for me. The char on the meat really adds a layer of flavor that I think is really important, and that's what grilling is all about. Is about getting a little bit of char on your meat. Before you get to the grill, one of the more important things I like to recommend is to bring your meat to room temperature prior to cooking. Taking it directly out of the refrigerator, and most people's refrigerators are going to be around 38 to 40 degrees, and putting it on a super hot grill is not going to get the result you want. It's going to take longer to cook to the center, as opposed to meat that's been brought to room temperature first. And then the same thing goes, and this is one of the most important things with grilling, is resting the meat once you've cooked it. So, if you take a steak that you've cooked on the grill and you take it and you put it directly onto a cutting board and you cut right into it, all the juices are going to run all over the cutting board. By resting the meat, and an easy tip for resting is you want to rest the meat for an equal amount of time that it was on the grill. So if you cook the steak for 10 minutes, you want to rest it for 10 minutes to let all the juices kind of go back where they came from. Like think about it this way. Like if you got thrown onto a bunch of hot coals, right? Your body would just scatter. Everything would go crazy, right? So the steak's going to be the same thing. So you want to let all those juices go back. And you'll notice that when you cut a pork chop or you cut a steak, if you rest it, you'll see very, very, very little juice. Even if you like your meat medium well or well done, you'll see it'll be a lot juicier throughout if you leave it and you rest it. That's probably the most important thing for me. And then the last two things for grilling, most meat, unless you marinate it, requires a decent amount of salt and pepper. Experiment with what you like at home, but I liberally season chicken and I liberally season beef with, especially hamburgers, with quite a bit of salt and pepper. You're generally going to find that it really needs it. And then the last thing, what does almost everybody do when you go over to your pal's house for a barbecue and they cook a steak? What do they do almost every time? They overcook it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see overcooked steak all the time. Don't be afraid to use a meat thermometer. I mean, having a really, really good meat thermometer in your utensil or your catch everything drawer in your house that we all have in our kitchen is really, really important. Good rule of thumb, medium rare is going to be 130 degrees. You want to get your meat thermometer right into the center. You can always, I always tell people, you can always cook your steak more, but you can't cook it less. So taking a slower approach and checking it as you go will prevent you from overcooking the steak.
So on that point right there, because, I do kind of have my method where I kind of know the way I like a steak, based on the thickness. I kind of know my timing. But somebody comes over and they go, "Hey, I want mine a little different than what." Now I'm lost.
Mm-hmm.
I usually like my steak about medium to like not so medium rare, a little bit more medium. And somebody comes over and says, "I want medium rare." Well, I don't know how to cook that. I mean, off of my method. So my question is, if I use a thermometer and then I rest it the way you're saying, so I cook it for 8 minutes, and then I let it rest for 8. I'm assuming it's going to cook a little bit more throughout that resting process, or won't it? Okay,
so that's a great point. What you're referring to is carryover heat. So if you're taking something off of a grill and it was a 500-degree grill, it is going to continue to come up in temperature for a short period of time. So you do want to adjust to that, and you have to get a feel for everybody's grill is different. You got to get a feel for it. So if you like a medium steak, you want to be closer to somewhere between 135 and 140 degrees internal temperature. I would pull your steak off at 130 and check it in a few minutes and see what it looks like. The other thing is, you're going to see some steaks that are, perfectly an inch or 2 inches thick throughout. But when you're entertaining, you're going to see most steaks are going to have, some different levels of thickness. You're going to be able to provide a different level of temperature for your guests by that measure, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Something I love to do is cook whole fillets. So I'll buy a whole fillet at Costco, or I'll snag one out of the cooler at work, not tell anybody. So, but, I'll season it. I'll cook the whole thing. And a fillet, has a tail end and then it has a head end, a thick end. That provides me with everything from rare in the center to like a medium. That's a really good one for entertaining as well.
So you cook it and then slice it up, and then people can take what they like of those different temperatures.
Exactly. And it's kind of fun. Once you rest it, filet is one of the best things to do for a group because it's steak, it's lean, so if somebody doesn't like fatty meat, you're kind of satisfying, that person. And the whole filet, you cut that thing and it's going to have everything from rare to medium, or from medium rare to medium well, because it's got such a different layer or different level of thickness end to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple things you said there, that the resting part, I'm really glad you said that, because I grill quite a bit, but with the baby being just 1 year old, he goes to bed right around like 7. And that's when I usually start grilling. So by the time I'm done, especially if it's something a little bit longer, I'm pulling something off the grill at 7:30, and everyone's hungry at that point. And then I say those words, well, we got to let it rest for a minute. And my wife just gives me this look. She's ready to eat right then. But so I'm glad you said that, so that I can make her listen to this and, say, hey, Chef Dean said so. So now we got to do it.
Something else, just to speak to that, as far as how you organize your whole meal, you want everything to come out hot, and you want to serve everything hot at the same time. So, most people aren't going to just eat the steak. They're going to have, let's say, mashed potatoes and asparagus. When you take your steak off the grill and you put it off to the side, that's when you can sear your asparagus or roast your asparagus, and you can mash your potatoes, and you can set your table and do other things to time it, to make sure that you're timing yourself and forcing yourself to let the steak rest as long as you want it to. Because it really makes just a massive difference in the quality.
Yeah. Do you have a thing about, sometimes when I take mine off, I'll wrap it, like I'll have it in a plate and I'll put aluminum foil over it. Would you recommend that? Not recommend that? Just let it be open? Like, do you have a thing about that? I do it because I want to hold the heat in. So that's my thinking.
And that's another great point. Some people don't like the resting process because the steak isn't going to be super hot, because you're letting it sit out at room temperature for, if you grilled it for 10 minutes, for 10 minutes. But to me, the trade-off is much better to have something that's warm to hot, that's super juicy, than hot and, dry as sandpaper.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But wrapping it in foil, you can do that if you have an extended resting period. I personally put mine on a cookie sheet so that I'm getting cooling and air from underneath and on top.
Okay.
Good. Well, I got and when you said the grill thermometer, I think that makes all the sense in the world. I used to just kind of eyeball my steak and everything, or just set a timer and then flip it, and the thermometer really takes a lot of the work out of it. And you can get them for as cheap as like $10 to $15, or you can get some really nice ones. I got a gifted one last year by my wife. And it's a little bit nicer, but it's got a Bluetooth thing to it. So it connects to my phone, and I can sit on my couch and just kind of really watch what's going on in the grill at the same time. So it's really nice. But so thanks for sharing on that. What is your favorite grilling recipe right now?
Well, my favorite grilling recipe has been the same for a long time. And that is, I do baby back ribs, but I don't do them with barbecue sauce. I do them with hoisin sauce, which is a sauce that you can find in the Asian section of pretty much any grocery store. It's almost like an Asian barbecue sauce with soy sauce incorporated. very thick. It makes the best ribs that I've ever had. And anytime I switch up at my house or I have people come over and I grill ribs and I put barbecue sauce on them, they get mad at me because they love the hoisin ribs so much. But the key to that is the braising of the ribs ahead of time. I don't believe in cooking ribs all the way on a grill. I think they get entirely too dried out. So I braise mine. I put them in a pan and I season them with salt and pepper, and I wrap it in saran wrap first and then aluminum foil. And the saran wrap keeps in the steam and the foil keeps in the heat. And I do it airtight with about an inch of water or beer in the bottom of the pan. And I cook them in the oven for 2.5 to 3 hours at 300 degrees. So when they come out, they've been steamed or braised, and they're like butter. You can barely pick them up. And once you let them cool, the muscles kind of contract and tighten around the bones, and then you can finish them by charring them on the grill. And I char them with that hoisin sauce, and that's always been my favorite.
So when you do that, what are you doing a temperature on those?
No, they're cooked all the way through.
Yeah. Okay. So you're just, the grill's just to give it that crispiness, I guess.
Yeah, you're getting you're caramelizing the sauce on the outside, so you're getting this incredible sweet, salty on the ribs. It's just I think it's unbeatable. It's my favorite.
So what do you do? Coat, let them cook, turn them, cut again, and then coat it a couple times, and just let it cook on a little bit.
Yep, heat, turn, baste, turn, baste, turn, baste, turn until I've got some caramelization where the sauce is kind of really, really cooked into the ribs. So I'm looking for the black grill marks on there.
And you doing the sauce right out of the jar?
Right out of the jar.
Yeah. Not doing anything.
I wish I had something trickier than that, but that's
awesome. So are you saying, I don't know, I don't want to make you spell it if you don't know how to spell, like if it's not right in front of you, but tell me what you're saying. You're saying hoisin?
Yeah. HOISIN.
Okay. I'm making a note. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
They're
my favorite.
Yeah, we've used it before too, and it's thicker than just like a soy sauce, so it seems like it would work really well on a grill. So transitioning away from grilling and just cooking in general. Now, a few years ago, this thing that was invented, the Instapot, that was a huge thing, and everyone was getting that as a gift, and all these recipes came out for it. But now, more recently, there's this thing called the air fryer. I have one. I know a ton of people that have one. We love ours just because it seems like it's a little bit healthier than just dumping something into a vat of oil. So what are your thoughts on the air fryer, the trend that we're seeing, maybe from a health perspective, but also from a taste perspective?
Well, I got to be honest, I've not had a ton exposure to the air fryers. I don't own one. I've had some French fries out of one. I've had some fried chicken out of one from friends, and I thought it was good. It's to me, it's almost like turkey bacon. It's
right.
like turkeys don't make bacon. And it's really, real bacon is so gosh darn good,
Right.
And when you eat turkey bacon, you're like, well, I'm eating healthier. I'm doing a good job. I don't have to run as much today, but I really would have preferred that delicious, greasy piece of bacon. And it's kind of like that for me with fried food. I personally don't eat fried food very often, but gosh darn, when I have a piece of fried chicken and some French fries, it's like happy town,
Yeah.
So I can't give you a lot of experience on how to use the air fryer. But my limited experience is, I think, good, but I like the real thing better.
It's not the real deal. Yeah, I agree. It's basically an oven that's circulating air is what it is. So,
Yeah.
but it works for some things. We mainly use it for veggies, and it seems to work pretty well. But I agree with everything you said there. If you're gonna get something fried, you got to get it actually fried.
Now, what do you do? What do you do with the vegetables? Do you bread them and fry them? How's that work?
No, we pretty much we'll stick them in there. So we'll do Brussels sprouts in there, and kind of like a restaurant style Brussels sprout, where it does actually start to char around the outsides.
Mhm.
Asparagus has been really good. So but a lot of times that's really what sauce you're putting on top of it after they're done, than
Right.
more than how it was cooked. But
You're going to get your calories one way or the other.
yeah, that's right.
So you've given us a lot of things already here, but one of the things I've been we're watching one of the chef shows, I think it was Top Chef or whatever. And what they end with is, if you get kicked off, I think it was pack your knives, right?
Mhm.
So obviously knives or utensils, things that you use in the kitchen are a big deal to a chef. So if you had to tell us hey, this is your knife you need to have for these different items, whether it be, cutting your steak and, getting your, like we talked about that big fillet and we want to cut that, or if we're trying to do with vegetables, I mean, do you have anything there that we could look at, not, just get stuck on in some infomercial and think, wow, that's the best thing ever, and we buy the wrong stuff?
Well, a matter of fact, I do.
Okay.
And you guys didn't cue me on this either. I just grabbed these. So I don't have my personal knives with me, but I got a couple knives from the kitchen, and just, knives are tools, and, you need different tools for different applications. So, the first thing every kitchen has to have is a traditional French chef knife. And that's what this one is, with the pointy end. This is a 9-inch chef knife. This is going to be good for everything from chopping vegetables to mincing herbs, that sort of thing. It's kind of an all-purpose Swiss Army kind of knife. The next knife you have to have would be, this is a paring knife, or I call it a fish knife. This is really great for cleaning steaks. If you've ever cleaned a fillet before, it has that silver skin on the outside. This is really good to get underneath of it. If I'm cleaning fish, this is really good way to start to get the skin off. I don't finish with this, but you can start to get the skin off that way. This is really great for boning chicken. Like if you're going to break down a whole chicken yourself, that's what you need this for. Every kitchen has to have a serrated edge knife with the little ridges on the top, and that's for bread. Okay. If you try to use any other knife with bread, you're going to press down on it and squish your bread.
Yep.
I also have a smaller knife than this that's serrated. It's called a tomato knife. And that's exactly what it's used for, is cutting tomatoes. But anybody that's diced tomatoes with one of these has probably seen a bunch of mushy tomatoes on their cutting board.
Right.
This is just too heavy and not the right tool. And then the last thing, you were talking about this carving the steak, a nice big carving knife.
Okay.
This is about a 15-inch knife. It's super, super sharp. And this is awesome for carving beef, cutting your turkey on Thanksgiving. I think most kitchens probably have a carving knife. And then the last thing everybody's got to have is a steel. So you can sharpen your knives in a second, because, the knives are worthless if they're not sharp. So, a steel at a 15-degree angle, end to end, is the whole key there. Couple swipes on each side, and your knife will be good as new.
Huh.
And is that pretty much that? The sharpening is always something we don't have a steel, but we have like a little gadget that you just kind of run the knife along. But are you pretty much doing that before you use it every time?
No, I sharpen my knives at home every couple months. And I mean, I cook a lot at home, but if you're just cooking a couple nights a week, you have your steel handy. And when you start feeling that you're having the key to a knife is this: if you feel like you're pressing down too hard, okay, then you're not letting the knife do the work. I mean, knives, I was telling one of my employees yesterday who was just going at it on a cutting board. I was like, that knife is sharp for a reason.
Yeah.
You should, if you can't cut through something with ease, that means that the knife is not sharp enough. So that's generally the rule of thumb for myself.
All right. Well, good. Well, thanks for sharing these tips with us. A lot of stuff on grilling, the knives. That's always very important. I know I don't have the knives that I want right now, but we'll get them eventually. But so tell us a little bit, the past year really has been very difficult, especially in the hospitality environment where you're in, restauranting and everything like that, catering. Just tell us a little bit about Rocky Top's journey and through the pandemic and kind of where you are now and what you've got going on for the rest of the year.
Sure. So, being in the events industry and catering industry, we probably were, our business was probably disrupted more than anybody else in hospitality. We were down last year about 85%. And just by nature to what we do, we cater large events. I mean, and that's something that just wasn't going to happen through the pandemic. So almost immediately when all this started, we decided to pivot to something we're very passionate about, which is nonprofit work. So we partnered with a nonprofit locally called Overflowing Hands. I'm actually a board member, and I've done quite a bit of work with them in the past. And we decided we were going to help feed kids that are on the free and assisted meal programs in Wake County. These are the kids that get free or partially free breakfast and lunch meals. And there are about 52,000 kids in that program. So what happened when the pandemic hit and the kids couldn't get to school, the county all of a sudden had this unbelievable problem where, 52,000 kids weren't getting 10 meals a week that they normally got. So we immediately started working with Wake County schools to figure out how we could help. And we thought we would be in that. And we started distributing meals. We thought we would do it for about 6 weeks. We're still doing it.
Wow.
And it's evolved to just a crazy program. And it's something we're going to continue to do. But to date, we have distributed about 650,000 meals to upwards of 72 sites per week. We distribute a fresh take and bake meal, which is the model that we found was best, was we have the infrastructure to distribute cold meals. So like this week, for example, all of our communities are getting a blackened chicken with a black bean and corn salsa, homemade succotash, and roasted sweet potatoes. And
Wow.
we send these out with instructions in English and Spanish to where the folks can cook them. And we've also jumped into a USDA program where we're getting what's called a combo box. And the communities love these. They're 35 to 40 pound boxes of produce, 3 to 5 pounds of protein, gallon of milk, usually a half gallon of a yogurt drink for the kids that they really like. And we're distributing those as well. And we've distributed right at 4 million pounds of those boxes over the last year as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's a 100% nonprofit model. And we're actually going to we're going to probably do this all the way through September 30th this year.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a lot of work, to have to deal with, especially under the conditions that we've been in this year, to still be able to do that and operate that way. So that's awesome. But before we go here, if somebody's listening and they are thinking, hey, you know what, this sounds awesome. I have a grandchild or a child or myself, whatever it might be, that's thinking about getting married or wants an event or whatever, what's the best way for them to reach out to Rocky Top and to get information from you guys about working with you?
RockyTopCatering.com. We have an inquiry form on the website that you can fill out, and it'll go to the appropriate salesperson and they'll get in contact with you immediately.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dean. We certainly do appreciate you coming on and talking with us today. And I've learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else has as well.
Well, it's always fun talking with you guys. I really appreciate it.
We hope this video has given you some confidence and clarity as you plan for a worry-free life in retirement. But what else do you need? We have created a complimentary video course called 3 Keys to Secure Your Retirement. This video walks you through step by step what you need to do to get ready for retirement. You can also check out our podcast called Secure Your Retirement. You can subscribe below.
For more retirement tips, watch this video. Create your retirement income plan. Also, click here to subscribe to our podcast, Secure Your Retirement. If you like this video, hit the like button and be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends.